All right, hello, I'm Ryan Gleckner. I'm going to be presenting today on the path to renewable energy in Pennsylvania. As an overview, I'm going to be talking about the energy landscape, the renewable potential of Pennsylvania, the economics of renewable energy, the politics of renewable energy, and the path forward for PA. So looking at the energy landscape, right now PA is the second largest natural gas producer in the United States. It's also the third largest coal producer and second in the nation for nuclear electric power generation. If you look over here at the chart on the right, you see that the amount of natural gas produced here is clearly the largest thing we produce, followed by coal and also nuclear electric power shortly behind coal, and then renewable energy is a very small share of the total energy production right now. We're looking at the consumption here in PA. A lot of our electricity actually is exported, but we also do consume a lot of natural gas and coal here. 50% of PA households use natural gas for heating, and then 90% of the coal mined in PA is used for electric generation for factories and utilities. Now, when we're looking at reducing the carbon footprint, I think that the biggest thing we need to look at first is coal, because it has the largest carbon footprint here, about 90 times that of wind. Natural gas isn't shown on this graph, but it does have a life cycle greenhouse gas emission of about 250 grams of CO2 emitted for every kilowatt hour of power. So that's still a lot more than the median amount produced for both solar and wind and nuclear. So it's definitely important that we reduce the use of fossil fuels such as coal and natural gas if we want to combat climate change. So looking at the renewable potential, starting with wind, here you got a map here showing the potential of wind in PA. Most of the state doesn't look that good, but if you zoom in here, we'll be looking at the southwest. All of these ridges along the Appalachian Mountains have great potential for wind farms. But in looking at this one in particular, the Twin Ridges Wind Farm in Somerset County, this one faced significant or some backlash from the community, particularly amongst people that lived in the shadow and within earshot of these wind farms. They don't like the noise. They don't like the weird shadows from the propellers. This is some like not in my backyard protest to wind farms. This is obviously something that we need to look at when looking into where these are going to be placed. But there are plenty of ridgelines available in PA. Along with that, there are some environmental setbacks with construction, particularly because you have to be careful with the environment and the impact of building roads into the mountains in order to get the materials in there. Moving on, looking at solar. PA also has some pretty good solar resources available of about 4 to 4.25 kilowatt hours per meter squared per day in the southeast here. You can see there's already some solar farms and just in PA, and then across the border there are even more. I think that PA has just as much ability to build as many solar farms, if not more than that, to meet the energy needs. Like I said, we definitely have the good potential for commercial farms, and even excluding commercial farms, home use solar panels can be installed throughout Pennsylvania to cut down on energy usage, and those will pay themselves back in about 10 years. So it looks good for the consumer too. Looking at geothermal, PA doesn't have much going on for itself here. So there's little to no commercial energy production viability. unfortunately, we won't be seeing a whole lot of electrical generation here. However, geothermal energy can still be used to install ground source heat pumps, and this will basically use the ambient temperature of the ground at 55 degrees to more efficiently heat and cool the homes. So this can again cut back on the use of natural gas in housing, as well as for other means of heating. Looking at biomass, you can see here that some counties in PA have plenty of biomass available for energy production. A lot of this comes from biomass and biogas from landfills throughout PA, and actually the majority of electrical production right now comes from burning municipal waste. With biomass production, you got to be careful because it's not exactly carbon neutral, because yes, the carbon is stored in whatever you've grown, but then you burn it and you release it again. And then with some of the things like forests that are used for biomass, if sustainable practices aren't used with that, they actually burn through it faster than they're growing it, and then it becomes producing more carbon than you're storing. And that's obviously a problem, not sustainable, not renewable. Looking at the economics of renewable energy, I'm going to start with the cost. Costs of renewable energy are actually going down as the technologies improve. You can see on the right here that in many cases the levelized cost of alternative energies is about the same, or in some cases less, than conventional fossil fuels. Coal especially can be pretty expensive, whereas wind is incredibly cheap compared to so many other electrical energy sources. And so this means to be more financially viable for electrical utilities to set up wind and solar farms, alternate energy, renewable energy, and it work out for the consumer as well. Then when you're looking at jobs in the economy, obviously replacing fossil fuel production will result in a loss of jobs in those fields, which usually people don't like, but wind and solar actually employ almost 6 people for every 1 coal worker. So, and that's as it is right now, they're only producing 15% of the energy. So this shows that for every coal job you're losing, you're going to be able to make a lot more jobs in the wind and solar industries. And moving on to the politics of renewable energy. Right now, the current laws and rules in PA is the 2004 Alternate Energy Portfolio Standard. The goal for this was 18% renewable energy by 2021, with 0.5% of that being solar. However, there's a new bills moving in trying to get passed. That's the House Bill 1425 and Senate Bill 630. The goals for this is 50% renewable by 2030, 80% by 2040, and 100% by 2050. This is obviously a lot more aggressive, which is definitely needed in order to combat climate change. These bills actually have some bipartisan support, with 21 state senators sponsoring it. Keep in mind that 26 are needed to pass the bill, as well as 79 state representatives sponsored it, with only 102 needed to pass. So, as a state, Pennsylvania is getting close to the momentum it needs in order to get big political forces in motion to support efforts like this to make Pennsylvania's energy more renewable based. And then 68% of the voters in a poll think that state government should do more to combat climate change. So the politics are looking good. So the path forward, I think that the new energy market will be built on wind and solar, and as we looked at the renewables are economically viable, and decreasing fossil fuels just kind of makes sense for businesses and for consumers. And then as the political forces are moving to incentivize this transition, it will accelerate it, and we will see PA using more and more renewable resources and moving away from the fossil fuels. So in summary, I talked about the energy landscape, the renewable potential of PA, the economics of renewable energy, and the politics of renewable energy, and then I concluded with the path forward that I see for Pennsylvania. So this concludes, and here are my sources.